Hey guys, it's Kelly, and I'm going to start a new series of videos called Book Babble. And what these will be like vlog style videos that each video will just be about one specific book, and it'll be all of my initial thoughts and reactions as I'm reading that book. And it'll include all the highs, all the lows, everything in between, so that means it'll be full of spoilers. So just a warning that if you haven't read the book that I'm talking about in this video, that you probably shouldn't continue because you will be spoiled. But I'm starting with one that almost everybody probably has read, and I'm starting with Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone as my first Book Babble book. Alright, editing Kelly here. I just want to say that I had meant for this to be my very first Book Babble. That's why I said this is the first one. But if you have followed my channel, you know that my Nevernight Book Babble came first. And that is because I started reading this book, put it down for a while, and finished it later. So when you hear me go on about this is the first time I am doing this series, that's why. I have, of course, read these before, but I haven't read the physical books since they came out with the last one. So that was the last time I read the series physically. I have listened to the audiobook several times since then, but even that I haven't listened to it probably at least the whole series. Every once in a while I'll read one, but in its entirety I don't think I've read or listened to this series in at least 8 or 9 years. So that's a long time to go without all Harry Potter. And the reason I haven't read the books physically a long time is I didn't have all of them physically. I had read the first several from the library and then had the last 2, but then I ended up getting my box set of the signature edition, and I haven't read them all yet. And I've had this box set probably for 5 years, and so I decided that now is the time. And since it's been a while since I've read it, I think it'll feel like fresh and new again. So I wanted to kind of give you guys my initial reactions in this read. So I'm going to start with the first book, and I'll let you know my thoughts as they come. I've read the first couple chapters, and already just the memories from even the first paragraph, just hearing about the Dursleys and Privet Drive, and just the way it starts with the Dursleys being described as so ordinary and boring and unmagical. It just it's like returning home to a familiar place, just even the beginning of this book. And so I'm so excited to be doing this reread. And in the first chapter, there's just a couple things that just really stand out to me. For one, I always am wondering, how is it, I know it's a suspension of disbelief, but how is it that they can get all the owls to change their sleeping patterns in order to be letter carriers? I mean, there's a ton of birds that you can use that are daytime creatures to deliver your mail, or just deliver all your mail at night. How do the wizards make all of the owls decide they suddenly don't want to be nocturnal anymore? And then do they still have to eat at night and hunt at night and work during the day? Seems like that might be some unpleasant working conditions and being overworked and all that. So I just always have wondered about the owls. And one of the other things that the first chapter always makes me question is how Dumbledore just puts baby Harry on the doorstep, I'm just gonna leave this baby here, middle of the night. It even says in the first chapter that it's several hours later that the Dursleys wake up and find the baby on the front porch. I mean, he's a magician. Couldn't he leave the baby, walk to the end of the road, and then magically make the doorbell ring or something like that, so that the baby isn't left alone for hours on a front porch? Seems a little questionable of the safety of baby Harry, but still, one of the other things I really love in this first chapter is the detail that J.K. Rowling puts in these stories that show up later on. That's what I love about the books versus the movies, are just those little things that go throughout the whole series. So just so you know, in case you haven't read the rest of the series, this might have spoilers for later books. And so in the first chapter, you see Dumbledore with the putter-outer, taking all the lights out in Privet Drive, and that now that I've read them all harkens to book 7 when Ron has the putter outer, and like just all of those little tiny details that she has put through all these stories and that continually show up, or like they might not show up for 6 books, that this one little thing shows up later in the series. And that's what I love about these stories. Chapters 4 and 5 are two of my favorites, so I have lots to chat about with those. And chapter 4 is where we get to see like Hagrid come and tell to the like shack on the rock on the island and tell Harry about being a wizard. And I just love that it's Hagrid that gets to share that news with Harry, because Hagrid's one of my favorite characters. You know, he's just so like lovable but gruff, and like the relationship that he and Harry develop throughout the books is just great, and I just really enjoy him as a character. And so I love that he gets to be the one to introduce Harry to being a wizard and to tell him about Hogwarts. And I also just love the way he treats the Dursleys, like how he just comes in and is like, you guys don't treat Harry well, you're gonna be a pig, and I'm gonna just tell Uncle Vernon to shut up and like get out of the way. And he's just like all about Harry. So I just love that. But I do have to say, now that I'm noticing a little bit more about the owls, that like in this chapter, I totally forgot about this, how like when he you know, gives Harry his letter and then like responds to Dumbledore, and he pulls a like poor little owl out of his coat to send off the letter. And I'm like, that poor owl, how long has he been like shoved inside of this giant man's coat with a million other things that he is pulling out? And isn't that a little bit of like owl abuse? And I'm just like wondering, do the wizarding world not have like PETA or anything like that? Nobody's taking care of the rights of the owls. The thing that like makes me laugh so much about this is when they're in Gringotts and they go to Harry's vault and like see the like piles and piles of coins, and I'm like, really, wizards, really? You guys are like wizards. You couldn't have come up with something better than like coins to carry around all the time? It just seems weird that you're wizards. Couldn't you figure out something different? Or like use bills. Why coins? Coins just do not seem like a logical thing for wizards to have. So like Harry's just walking around with a ton of change jingling in his pocket to go and buy all his supplies. Just seems weird. And then like we meet Draco in this chapter. Draco is so horrible. I've forgotten how bad he is in this initial interaction. Like I know he's gonna be like, you know, the bad character, but like just that even first meeting him and how snotty and obnoxious he is. And I love that Harry like notices right away and is like, no, I don't think I like you. Even though this is like the first like kid wizard he's met, he doesn't like try to fit in. You know, as soon as Draco makes fun of Hagrid, he stands up for him. He doesn't like buy into this whole like making fun of people that are half-bloods, even though he doesn't really know what that is. He knows that the guy is not being nice. So I'm like, yes, go my like brave Gryffindor and stand up to this guy. And though I have to say, there's a lot of Hufflepuff hate in this chapter. I mean, Draco makes fun of Hufflepuffs, which I kind of expect that. But then, like, Hagrid makes fun of Hufflepuffs when he's, like, explaining the houses to Harry. And I'm like, dude, what are you making fun of my house for? I mean, what are you saying about Hufflepuffs? We're good people. We're nice. We're loyal. We're friends. We're fun to be around. We're not boring and dull just because we aren't, like, super smart or super brave. Like, back off the Hufflepuff hate. Hey, guys. So, I just finished the chapter where Harry has his first trip on the Hogwarts Express. And I just have something to say about that. And that is that, like, it doesn't make sense to me why they wouldn't, like, in the information that Hogwarts sends out to first years, they wouldn't put some more details about how to get onto the platform. Because you would think, especially wizards that are coming from, like, non-wizarding families, that, I mean, like, there's Harry, who comes from originally a wizarding family but has been living with muggles, or there's people that are coming just from muggle families. Wouldn't you want to tell them some more details so that they wouldn't give away things to the muggles? Because isn't the whole kind of point is that the wizarding world has to stay a secret from the muggles? So you're just going to send a bunch of, like, what are they, 11-year-olds out there having no idea how to get on platform 9 3/4 and have them asking attendants like for information like Harry does, and having like owls and things wandering around the station trying to figure this out. It just doesn't seem, I understand that it's in the plot so that Harry can meet the Weasleys and all that stuff. But I'm like, wouldn't you give more information so you wouldn't have these like random children wandering around King's Cross Station? So I don't know if you can tell because my hair is longer, but I took a little break from reading this. It just happened to me, I started reading like a buddy read or something, put it down, kind of forgot that I was doing this for the vlog, and so it's been a couple months. But the great thing about Harry Potter is I know the story well enough that I can just pick it back up. So I did pick it back up today, and I just had a comment about the sorting hat ceremony. You know how when Harry puts the hat on, it kind of has some like internal dialogue that he hears? Well, they mentioned in here that Neville, it took the hat a while to choose, and I would just like really love to know what the hat was like thinking or saying in Neville's mind while he was deliberating to put Neville in Gryffindor. Because, you know, at this point, all we know about Neville is he's kind of like timid and clumsy and, you know, forgetful and all that. And, you know, we know as readers who have read the series that he will become very courageous and develop all these, like, attributes. But I'm just wondering what the hat was deliberating during that minute. That would be, like, the behind the scenes that I would really like to hear. Just real quick, because I wanted to mention this at some point. I know that there is things that J.K. Rowling has revealed after the fact and said in Pottermore, but I have never read anything from Pottermore. I mean, every once in a while I hear something like that just that blows up on the internet that she has decided, you know, like her saying that Dumbledore is gay, but it's not in the books and all that stuff. Like, I understand that there is Pottermore, but I do not read that stuff, because for me, the books are the books. Like, that, I understand there's a whole world, and people get obsessed and want her to reveal more information, but I'm just not into that. Sorry, my daughter keeps attacking things on the shelf. I'm not into, like, reading more about that. If it's not in the books, then to me it doesn't really exist. So if anything I say here, you are like, oh, she told us about that in Pottermore, well, I'm not gonna go and read that. Sorry. So Harry just got his broom, and what I don't understand is that they sent the broom to Harry at mealtime, you know, all wrapped up with a note saying, don't open this in front of everybody, like people aren't supposed to know. But if that was the case, why wouldn't they just have the broom sent to McGonagall, which would probably go straight to her office, and then have Harry call to her office to open the broom? Like, it makes no sense to me when, like, the adults of this world are like, we're going to do this thing right in front of everybody, but it is a secret, just so you know. I mean, it's really just a plot device so that Malfoy could have seen that it was a broom, and they could have that whole, like, conversation about finding out that Harry has a broom and that he gets it, and blah, 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 and to like, stick it to Malfoy that it was Malfoy's fault that he even gets a broom because he was following him. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, it just becomes a plot device, but it makes me think that the adults are really dumb. So it's been a while since I have read the first one, so I kind of forgot, like, how much Hermione is, like, annoying and kind of a suck-up in the first half of the book. And I just got to the troll part where they finally, like, become a group of three, and it's just so precious to see that, because, you know, we all think of them as the trio, the group of friends. So seeing how kind of, like, I wouldn't want to be friends with Hermione the way she's acting in the first half of the book. So I just love when she, like, finally is like, okay, these guys are cool, I'm gonna lie to save them, and we're all gonna be buds. I just finished the chapter with the first Quidditch match, and one of the things I just really love about the series and the way J.K. Rowling wrote it is that there are so many side characters, but she just kind of, like, introduces them just in the flow of the story. Might just, like, mention a name, like, for example, you know, she was introducing all of the, like, Quidditch team members, so, you know, Katie Bell and Alicia Spinnet and all those, and she just mentioned the names. We're not going into details of who they are, but, you know, they're going to come up later in the story, and we're going to be like, oh, yeah, I've heard that name before. Or, like, at the beginning with the Sorting Hat, we heard a lot of names, like Lavender Brown and the Patil twins and some of the Slytherin characters and stuff like that. So, like, she just mentioned the names. We're not going into details. I love that because it makes it so that those people don't just like appear in later books when they're important. They're there, but we don't have to like go into bogged down by details of their past. Like, I had recently read the book Magic by Angie Sage, and a lot of people compare it to Harry Potter, and one of the complaints I had about that book was that every chapter it seemed like she introduced a new character or creature, but instead of just like saying the name or whatever in the flow, it was like the entire chapter was about that person or about that creature. So it really like slowed down the plot, so nothing was happening because it was just like every chapter we're meeting a new person or a new thing, and then it was like, well, I just can't keep track of all that, and there's nothing flowing me along. Where in the Harry Potter books, I feel like she's introducing people so that, you know, they won't be surprised people suddenly later, but we're not slowing down the plot for it. So I just really appreciate that about the way she writes the books, that it makes it so they could stay short and stay like action-packed instead of like being like really bogged down. I just got to the part where Dumbledore finds Harry at the Mirror of Erised, and they're having the whole conversation about Dumbledore having seen what Harry and Ron both saw. And, you know, Harry's wondering how that's possible, and Dumbledore says he doesn't need a cloak to become invisible. And I was just curious about that. So is he saying that he can just become invisible whenever he wants? Like, is there some spell that makes it invisible? Because that seems like something that, like, dark wizards should have been using to, like, sneak up on people that they want to, like, harm. Like, it just seems like that's a really convenient spell. Or is he saying that he's, like, able to watch what's going on in the castle, like, through the portraits or something like that? So that was just something that stuck out to me, is, like, what's he saying there? Because that seems like a lot of implications. If he's saying that there's a spell to make himself invisible, that's something a lot of other people should be taking advantage of. I just love the, like, subtle foreshadowing that just pops up randomly that you wouldn't catch unless you've read the whole series. Like, in this one, Harry keeps thinking Snape is following him around, and he was like wondering if Snape knows that he has found out about Nicholas Flamel and the Philosopher's Stone. And Harry goes, he didn't see how he could, yet he sometimes had the horrible feeling that Snape could read minds. And it isn't even until like the third book that we find out that Snape is a Legilimens. Sorry, I can never pronounce that, but he can like navigate minds. So I just think it's hilarious that she has the forethought to like put in these little tiny foreshadowing things that when you reread the series really like stick out. All right, approaching the end now. So the Forbidden Forest as a punishment. I think a lot of people, this like common like agreement that it's just ridiculous that like these kids get in trouble for sneaking out in the middle of the night. McGonagall even says it's too dangerous to be doing that right now and gives a bunch of points off for it. And yet their detention is to be out after curfew, middle of the night, in a place that's already forbidden, and because it is so dangerous. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Do these adults have absolutely no logical sense to them? I don't get, was it McGonagall that chose this punishment? Like, too dangerous at night in the castle, so let's send you to someplace even more dangerous. Like, for once, I think Malfoy is actually the logical person. Like, Malfoy's the one like, I'm not going in there, I'm not doing this is ridiculous. Like, yeah, Malfoy, you're right. For once, you are the person saying some common sense here. Okay, sorry, so more along that, because I kept reading in the chapter, and now Hagrid's, you know, telling them what they're going to be doing, looking for this injured unicorn. And, you know, first of all, something has been injuring and killing unicorns, so we're going to go to that location where the unicorn is. And, you know, Malfoy, once again, voice of reason, says, but what if whatever hurt the unicorn finds us first? Hagrid's response is that nothing in the Force will hurt you as long as you're with me. And then, now let's split into different parties. It's like, okay. Like, couldn't you have maybe, like, brought some more adults along? I mean, I think that he's saying that Fang is also going to protect them. Okay, fine. But still, I would think I would want an adult wizard with me if I'm wandering around in the middle of the night looking for a injured unicorn that something else is going around killing. Like, Oh my gosh. What is with this book and animal cruelty? Like, I had talked a lot at the beginning about the owls, and then now they're doing their last sneak out where they're going to the trap door to go get the stone, and they're under the invisibility cloak, and they run into Mrs. Norris, and Ron says, oh, let's kick her, just this once. I mean, I know she's a pesky cat that, like, is trying to turn them in, but who just says they're gonna kick a cat? Like, yeah, I don't get random animal things. I mean, like, PETA really should be, like, saying something about Harry Potter here. While they're in doing all of the trials to get to the stone, and they're at the riddle for the potions riddle that Snape did, and Hermione is like, brilliant, this isn't magic, it's logic. A lot of the greatest wizards haven't got an ounce of logic. So that explains why the adults in this series always do the most illogical things. Makes a lot of sense. I guess that it's just common for wizards to not have logic. So with the Mirror of Erised being the last thing to get the stone, so Dumbledore didn't move the mirror until after Christmas break, because that's when Harry and Ron were looking at it. So was there something else guarding the stone at the end in the first half of the year, or was the potion thing like the last thing and the stone was just sitting there? So it just seems weird that, like, suddenly halfway through the year Dumbledore would be like, let's add another thing to guard the stone and let's just put this mirror down here. Just seems like kind of weird. Have I mentioned how much I love Hagrid? I mean, I know he does really stupid stuff sometimes, but when he gives Harry the, like, picture book of his parents, and that he took the time to, like, contact all their friends and gather up a picture book, oh, it just, like, brings a tear to my eye. Makes me just love him, and just knowing their friendship over the series, I just adore Hagrid. Okay, guys, I have finished the Philosopher's Stone, and so I just wanted to give kind of my final thoughts. Like I said, it's been a while since I've read the book, so it was fun to come back to this world and remember all the little things that aren't in the movies that I haven't read about in a while. This is still 5 stars to me. You know, a lot of people I've seen lately who have been rereading the books, reviewing them, you know, they a lot of times will put a caveat saying, you know, a lot of their rating is based on nostalgia and based on their childhood and stuff. But that's not the case for me. I didn't read these as a kid. I didn't start reading Harry Potter until I think I was 22 when I started reading them. So they aren't tied to my childhood. But I loved them when I read them when I was in my 20s, and I still love this book. I just think that, you know, yes, they're not perfect. Obviously, in this video, I have pointed out some things that are pretty illogical, that are kind of crazy. But it doesn't matter. It's just a fun story. I love the characters. I think it's entertaining. I think a lot of times people nowadays are, like, putting this up against, like, adult books. And this was written as a children's book. Children's books aren't going to stand up to the same level as an adult book. That's just not what it's meant to do. They're meant to be fun and magical and bring you into a different world. They don't have to stand up to something like The Lord of the Rings. I mean, it'd be interesting for me, I think, after I read the series, to read The Hobbit, because The Hobbit is also a children's book, to kind of compare the two that, but I wouldn't compare this with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because that's written for adults and this is written for kids. So we still have to, for me, when I rate books, I take that into account. Like, I'm not going to rate a children's series the same exact way as I'm going to rate adult fantasy. I'm going to approach this from the fact that this is meant for kids. And even though I, as an adult, find it still entertaining, I also keep in mind that it's not going to be the very perfect, pristine writing and all that stuff, because it is meant for children. But I think that it was magical and fun. I really enjoyed revisiting the world, and I'm really excited now to continue the series. Like, I think I'm just going to keep reading. Let me know if you guys like hearing my thoughts on these, because if so, if I get enough likes on the video and enough comments, then I will just go ahead and vlog each of my reading experience, because it is kind of fun to, like, see the, like, things that are a bit, like, off and crazy about it while still really loving the series. That you can have both. That you can. It's like when people are like, you know, when somebody makes fun of your sibling and you're like, you're not allowed to make fun of my sibling. I can, and I can like hate them sometimes and like pick on them, but you can't pick on my brother. Like, that is what this series is like for me. That since I'm a fan and I love it, I feel perfectly fine nitpicking at it. But, you know, I don't want, like, non-fans to. Does that make sense? But, no, it's fine. It's a book. I don't care if you hate Harry Potter or you love Harry Potter. Go ahead and put some comments down below and let's chat.